All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Ultra High Net Worth Clients Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Broadhead. We started this podcast as a way to create a central resource of the best financial advisor practice growing tips shared by the most outstanding advisors in the industry, of which our guest today is definitely one. These outstanding financial advisors agree to be on the show and provide a ton of value 100% for free, all in the hopes that you might gain some value from their insights and grow a more successful practice. So let's try and get today's guest a couple thousand views and listens on their episode. And we'll be sure to get up the SEO backlinks and the cool social media content. Some quick background. My father was a financial advisor. Financial advisors are the main client we serve. So my marketing agency's mission is to help every FA grow their business in an effort to help the world become more financially secure. Today, we have the amazing opportunity to talk with an incredible financial advisor named Marc Horner. Marc, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
I can, but with that kind of an intro, Chris, I don't know how this is going to be not going to be disappointing for everyone. That bar was set way too high. But yeah, my name's Marc Horner, founder of Fairhaven Wealth Management outside of Chicago, Illinois. And this is, as we're recording this, I'm in my 23rd year of being a financial advisor.
Wow. So you started when you were 2.
I started when I was 2.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Power of time. All financial advisors are familiar with that. Important to get started early.
Oh, yeah. Get that compounding interest phenomenon going. Awesome. So at the top of the show, I normally like to start at the beginning. How'd you get into this wild world of finance?
Yeah. So I started my professional career in a bank training program. So I right out of college, rotated around a bunch of different departments in the bank. And one of those departments was the commercial lending area where I got to work with business owners. And I got infected early with the entrepreneurial experience. And so in my mid-20s, I left the bank to go start a business. And that was a promotional products distributorship. So all the junk, said affectionately, that companies put their logo on. So golf balls, coffee mugs, pens, Post-it notes, T-shirts, golf shirts, all that stuff. I sold to various companies, and I started that business on credit card cash advances, and so juggled credit cards for a few years until I got it off the ground. And then year 3 of doing that, somebody approached me about buying it, and so I ended up selling the business. Didn't make a ton of money, but somebody thought what I had created from nothing was worth something. And in a not really well thought out move, I went back to the banking world. And having been in the entrepreneur's seat, I think banking is a great place to start, but after you've been an entrepreneur, those two cultures don't really get along. And so I looked at the financial advisor world as had always been a fan of the investment world, but I looked at the financial advisor world as basically a franchise model. And so I started my career at Merrill Lynch. And so instead of opening a Dunkin' Donuts franchise that at that time might have cost $400,000 or $500,000 to get making the donuts, Merrill Lynch was going to pay me a salary to make the donuts. And so that's how I got started, and that was in November of 2000.
Mm-hmm. But you still had that insatiable entrepreneurial spirit. It sounds like.
I did. That I don't know that that's ever left me since my mid 20s when I made that first jump. So I looked really enjoyed the experience and the culture at Merrill. And in 2008, during the financial crisis, when everything was blowing up, I looked really hard at going to the independent world just because I thought that there was more opportunity there. And in that environment, the honest answer is I just didn't have the guts to do it in 2008. So I went to UBS, was there for 6 years before I found the guts to do it. And then in January of 2015, I left the big firm world, resigned at 9:30 in the morning on a Friday. At 11:30, I was buying my first practice. We bought 5. At 2:30 that afternoon, I was on my first client appointment, and by the time my head hit the pillow on Monday night, I had 40 client meetings to bring them over to Fairhaven Wealth Management. And so that started the firm with about 40 clients and 80 million in assets or so. And then 7 years later, we became a team of 20 and crossed $1 billion in assets. So 14 years in the big firm world, I went from 0 to 80, and then the first 7 years went from 80 to $1 billion in the independent world. So the thesis that there was more opportunity out on your own, so far that's proven true.
Well, I think those numbers are hard to argue with there. Can you tell us your thinking behind buying a practice when you went independent?
Yeah. So I wanted to go independent with as much momentum and as much acceleration as I possibly could. So one option would be to just go out on my own with my 40 clients and 80 million in assets. But that just felt like that was going to be just too slow. So I wanted to multiply the experience. And so that's how I got involved in thinking about making an acquisition. And I'd say that evolved from part of my due diligence, which I spent 3 years in due diligence before making the jump. Part of that due diligence process was networking with independent advisors to learn from them. So that to I'd cold call an independent advisor, introduce myself, ask them to take them to breakfast or lunch to learn specifically about what do I need to be prepared for to make the jump to independence. And it was some of those conversations that led to, hey, have you thought about doing an acquisition or maybe joining an existing firm to eventually acquire the firm? So it was really networking as part of that due diligence process that opened up my eyes to the idea that, you know what, I could probably kill two birds with one stone here, and ended up doing that.
Mhm. Yeah, so that way you're able to kinda start your independent career kinda on second base maybe.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Any thoughts on or advice on financing such a acquisition?
Yeah, so my banking experience helped. So
Mhm.
we took care of the financing with both a combination of seller financing. So a note was taken back by some of the advisors that whose practices we bought, and then also traditional bank financing. So there's pros and cons, I think, to just about everything, but and that applies to borrowing money as well. But also I would say I'm a fan of the idea of using other people's money. I think there are some
Mm.
advisors out there, some financial advisors out there that just say all debt is evil, and I don't think that. I think that debt's got its role. It just needs to be, in my opinion, it needs to be used judiciously, and if you do that, it can be your friend.
Amen. I think, I feel like most of the guests we interview, debt has been, an outstanding ally, and they probably could not have gotten where they are without it, so you're speaking the truth, my friend.
I mean, that's 100% the case for me. If I was gonna have to write a check to make that move, that was not gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah, right. That's, probably a big check.
Yeah, yes.
Can you tell us about how you found the right practice to buy, and then how you kinda determined that it was the right practice?
You gotta kiss a lot of frogs. So, I had way more than one conversation. So yeah, I think it starts with conversations, and is there a fit just with before you get to know anything about the advisor's practice, is there a fit with the individual advisor? Because you're gonna have to work together. So if you can't
Mhm.
stand around this person for more than 8 minutes, it doesn't matter what their business looks like. So once you get comfortable with the person, then understanding their practice and how many overlapping circles are there with your own approach. So for us, or for me, when I first started as an individual, it's always been to approach client service from a financial planning perspective. I believe in uh, managing money for a fee. I believe in managing money on a discretionary basis. I tend to work with professional people, so they tend to be business people, either business owners or uh, senior executives in larger companies. I think that's a carryover from where I started my career in the banking world. And then the size of clients. So what's the typical? Is their average client $100,000 or 100 million or somewhere in between? But making sure that there's overlapping circles in how you think and operate as a person, the kinds of clients you work with, and your business model. And the more those circles overlap, I think the better chances for a good transition. And that takes time to get to know all that information.
Mhm. Yeah. No, it sounds like you, definitely crossed your T's and dotted your I's.
Well, Chris, even though I did, I mean, again, 3 years, I was going through this process. I will never forget that Thursday night. I'm gonna go in and resign the next morning. I stopped on the way home at a local watering hole, to sit there by myself, which I've gotten counseling for since then, so I've addressed that problem. But to sit there by myself to think through it one more time, not in the car on the way home with the music going, or not at home with the kids running around, but by myself to make sure that I'd thought through it thoroughly before I jumped off the cliff the next morning, because there was no putting the parachute back in the bag. So it's scary, making that jump, no matter how much work you put into it.
How did you come to the conclusion you were making the right decision?
Like you said, that I had going through the I's I had crossed and the T's I had dotted, that I had done the work, and I had thought through it,
Mhm.
that I understood what the risks were, and I was comfortable with those risks, and just, doing one more gut check. Are you sure this is what you wanna do? And then go.
Mhm. And the gut was like, "Go for it."
The gut was go for it.
Right. Thanks, gut.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
you have a you have a true entrepreneur's gut there, my friend. So I'm curious, you said you've acquired 5 companies so far over the last 7 or 8 years, correct?
Advisor practices. They
Advisor
were all.
practices.
Yep, yep.
That's what I meant. Were they all looking to sell? Did you find them and make them an offer they couldn't refuse? What was the general kinda process there?
Yeah, I put a horse head in each one of their beds, and then
Okay.
that sealed the deal.
Bold
Sealed.
strategy.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, they're all a little different. So the first 3 were, uh, each advisors that were in their, either late 60s or early 70s, looking to retire, and they wanted to retire, quickly. So they were on a client transition plan over a year. The 4th was somebody that was he was in his mid-50s, had been an advisor for maybe 20 years, and just wanted to make a career change. So that was more finding a home for his clients. Again, a transition period of over a year or so, and then on to something else. And he remains a friend of the firm. I mean, we'll see him at the Christmas party and the golf outing and all the client stuff that we do. And then the 5th was, was actually part of that advisor networking that I did as part of my due diligence. So the first 3 were part of that, then the 5th was also part of that, where I develop a relationship with him, again, learning from his experience on being an independent advisor. And then, as he got into his late 60s, was was tired, I'd say, of working on his own, decided to join the firm, and then slowly migrate out. So they've all taken on some different characteristics, and the financials have all been a little bit different. Some people, the first 3 were interested in getting paid out quickly. The 4th was over time, and the fifth was over time. So yeah, it really varies.
Awesome. Awesome. So you've bought 5 advisor practices now. I imagine you will buy several to many more before you hang it up. Do you have any thoughts or suggestions or insights on how you will eventually sell your practice?
Y- I'm I'm probably so if I had to commit to a decision right now, the commitment would be I am not going to sell. I will We've got my wife and I've got 4 kids. Our oldest, who's 24 years old, she is now part of our
Mm,
company. Uh, I enjoy what it is that we do. I have a lot of fun with the marketing and trying to think differently about creating different kinds of client experiences. I don't see myself really ever getting bored with that.
mm,
Uh, I think it's a lot of fun to watch young people in the business. So our daughter is not the only young person in the company, and so watching young people develop and helping young people develop, I enjoy that. So yeah, I could see myself instead sort of uh, a slow glide to maybe, from 5 days a week to 4 days a week to 3 days a week or something like that. But yeah,
yeah.
I just don't I don't have I don't have any sort of desire to sell.
That's a beautiful answer, and I imagine when someone is considering selling their practice to you, hearing that uh, do, definitely doesn't hurt your chances.
You know what? You hit the nail right on the head. As of this morning, we hired our latest financial advisor to join the firm. He asked me when we were together just last night, hammering out some stuff. One of the questions he asked was, "How long are you going to be around? And what's your game plan?" So I got to practice my answer with him last night because I gave him the same answer I just gave you.
Oh, perfect. And we recorded it, so it will live forever.
Right.
Beautiful. So you mentioned, working with the next generation, working with younger advisors. How obviously, generational difference. I'm a millennial. Your daughter might be Gen Z. She was born with a, phone, near
Right.
her.
Right.
That I at least know a time when the internet didn't exist. How do you successfully bring, Gen Z, young millennial into the fold, so they maximize their chances of success?
That's a great question. And I'm not sure that anybody, so I won't pretend to have an answer to that fully developed. So when I went through the financial advisor training program at Merrill, plus or minus 6 months when I started, just in the office that I was in, this is not nationally, just in one office at Merrill, there were 45 people that came into that program, and I think there are 4 of us left in the business. And from my understanding, those numbers are normal. That 1 out of 10 financial advisors that start in the business stick past year 5. It's a got a big dropout rate, big dropout
Wow.
rate. So, so it's tough. It's a tough business. What we're trying to do with the young people that are working for us is to try to give them client experiences out of the gate. They aren't relegated to just hammering out financial plans all day and just doing filing. So get them involved with clients and prospects immediately to try and develop the skills of interacting with people. Big believer in education, and so going through the certified financial planner program in order to build that foundation. I tease the young people all the time though that if you think that after you pass the CFP exam that on the next Monday morning there's going to be a boatload of new clients waiting for you to sign up just because you've got a CFP designation, think again. That's not gonna happen. but having the foundational knowledge to deliver a financial advisor experience, I think is important. Um, and then we'll see what happens, because this is new for us. The young people that we've got at the firm are out of our internship program, so it's just a couple of years old that we decided to take a stab at hiring somebody full time and see if we can't do a better job training young people than the big firms have done. So I guess that's a rambling more to come. Maybe we get back together again in a few years. I'll give you an update about what's worked and what hasn't.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that. So you obviously you're buying practices. What is the best way to get a transitioned client to be comfortable with potentially a new advisor?
Yeah. So real quickly, our growth has basically been a third, a third, a third. So I just want to make sure that that I'm representing our firm correctly. So a third from acquisitions, a third from recruiting advisors, and a third from just good old fashioned organic one client at a time. So I think
Mhm.
you need all, in my opinion, you need all three of those oars in the water for growth. But to answer your question on getting to know a new client and and increase your odds for keeping that relationship, I'd say the one thing you want to avoid is you want to keep change down to a minimum. So uh, in our case, we're meeting somebody that doesn't know us at all and is coming from a relationship that they've had for 10, 15, or 20 years. And so to expect that to be a natural handoff in a matter of a week or two is nuts. It's going to take some time for new clients to get used to the new advisor. And so I think to help that process along, again, you want to keep change down to a minimum. Um, we are we are just, again, big believers in the client experience, and so getting them involved. We publish our own magazine. We put on client events throughout the course of the year. We are huge believers in the use of video. So we've got a financial literacy video series. We created a fictional financial advisory firm to make fun of the big firm world. So and shot 6 professional videos on those with casting calls. Some of the actors are from Second City, which for people not familiar
Oh
with
yeah.
Chicago, yeah, that's where John Belushi uh, came out of. So the Chris Farley, I mean,
Mhm.
crazy talented comedian.
Conan O'Brien.
Yeah, right, right. It's a long list.
Yeah.
It is a
Bill
long list.
Murray. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So so to give clients a chance to get to know the personality of the firm and the culture
Mhm.
of the firm and who we are as individuals. And so I'd say we pepper clients with that kind of experience to get to know
Mhm.
us.
Yeah. And I love that you all are doing that. That's very unique. You're interview number 27. You're the first person to make that fun and interesting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
it is fun. It is fun. And something that there's no way I could do or anybody else could do in the big firm world. The lawyers would suck all the fun out of it in about 15 seconds. I mean, it would be dead on arrival. So I mean, that to me is a massive competitive advantage for the
Mhm.
independent financial advisor. You can really get creative in again delivering an experience to your clients that you are just not able to do inside the big firm world.
Mhm. So how did this insight come to you? How did making continuing to educate your clients fun? How did that idea come forth?
So it all started with Howard Stern.
Of
Did you see the movie Private Parts?
course,
Okay.
at a
All right.
far too young age.
All right. So you know the scene when what pig vomit, the office manager is trying to get Howard Stern fired, and he goes to the ratings guy, and the ratings guy says, the average Howard Stern listener listens for 2 hours. Why do they listen? The most common answer: I want to see what he's going to say next. And then pig vomit says, yes, but what about the people that hate Howard Stern? Good question. So the people that hate Howard Stern listen for an average of 4.5 hours. But if they hate him, why do they listen? Most common answer: I want to see what he's going to say next. And so that's fundamentally how we approach the client experience in marketing. We want to try and elicit a reaction in the audience that we're marketing to of, I just want to stick around to see what they're going to do next. And keep, so that's a way to keep people interested. And I think one way to do that is to not talk about Sharpe ratios and beta and Monte Carlo analysis all the time. You got to do some of that. But weave in some showing people your personality and having some fun.
Mhm. That's awesome. But I'm not even sure there's any YouTubers that I follow that are making investing funny.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
that's
you.
I mean I follow a lot of financial investing YouTubers, and they make it like interesting, but I don't think any of them shoot for funny, which I trained at Second City. I'm a improviser myself, so I love that.
I love that too. So people will think that this was a set up interview based on that
Uh,
information. That's the first I've heard of this.
yeah. I lived in Chicago before I moved to LA for about 8 years. So big fan of that city. My grandparents are from South Bend. They used to go there all the time. So
Yeah, yeah. Second City is a fantastic experience. But back to comedy. We're shooting these videos. So it's called Bear Brothers Financial Advisors, and it's on our website. And again, there's six videos, and it's just this fictional firm. But the guy that's playing the sales manager, the actor, who's somebody that had some Second City experience, he said to me at one of the breaks. So I wrote all the scripts and I'm having fun on the set. But he said to me, and during one of the breaks, he said, "Where did you come up with this stuff? How did you write this?" And I said to him, "Do you want to see the guy that you're playing?" And I pulled up LinkedIn, and I showed him my phone, and I said, "That's you." And so the stuff writes itself, the,
Mhm.
to a degree that there is not or I think we're all familiar with movies like Wall Street and The Wolf of Wall Street and uh, what the Big Short, all these movies around Wall Street or investing. What's missing, to my knowledge anyway, is a movie about the financial world that is a comedy. And how that hasn't been done yet, I have no idea. Because if you can't see the comedic opportunity to run with a character like Sam Bankman-Fried, which is awful, what it is that he did to people, but you can completely run with that from a comedy perspective. That is a huge missed opportunity that I'm waiting for Netflix or Hulu or Prime Video to give me a call, because I've got the foundation built with the Bear Brothers.
And that's great. Is that a continuing series? Do you guys add to that?
So they're not cheap to shoot
Yeah.
those things. So I do have uh I have four more written, and I uh I don't know that I can commit to we're actually gonna do another round of them. But yeah, I do have four more written. So there's a chance. There's a chance.
That's cool. Do you moonlight as a screenwriter?
No. No. I like writing. I do like writing, but no, I don't get paid for it yet.
Yet.
Netflix still to come.
Yet. Keyword there. That's awesome. So we're coming towards the end of our time here. Just time for a couple more questions. I could definitely ask you questions for the rest of the afternoon. You are a good time, my friend.
As are you.
Thank you, thank you. Um, so obviously you start or you started in the independent world in 2015.
Yep.
You have since gone from 80 million to a billion in just around 7 years. What you may have alluded to it or partially answered it before, but what's the secret to? I mean, that's more than 10x,
Yeah.
12x,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Don't make me do public
11x.
math. Yes. It's something. It's something like that. Uh so lots of lines in the water. I'd say that's the first. So back to kissing a lot of frogs. You gotta be willing to strike out a lot if you want to get a few hits. So yeah, I stopped keeping track of the number of acquisition conversations that I had that completely went to, completely blew up. The number that I do know is that I I tried to develop business early in my career with seminars, and I did add it up one time, and I have sent out 68,000 invitations to seminars. This is like 10 years ago. 68,000 invitations to seminars, and I'm 0 for 68,000. So I don't even have a former client to show for that effort. So
Wow.
I'm willing to fail 68,000 times and keep going.
Mhm.
Uh, but I would say that's part of the formula. I'd say the other part of the formula for us is the acquisitions that we've done. We've intentionally used those acquisitions to help attract financial advisors to the firm so that they can financially participate in the acquisitions. And so when a new client, let's say 50 clients come on via an acquisition, I'm retaining responsibility for very few, sometimes none of those clients. Those clients get reassigned to other advisors within the firm. And so what that does is it reduces the client to advisor count. So that's good for the clients. It turns on revenue immediately for advisors that they wouldn't otherwise have. That's good for the advisors. And it frees up me so that it's everything is all the client service responsibilities are not falling on to me. That frees up me to go out and do more of that. So that's good for the firm. So I think in general, from a business strategy perspective, if you can come up with ways that are if you can come up with ways to grow the firm that are good for the clients, good for the team, and then that's just naturally going to be good for the organization, and rinse and repeat that constantly, good things are going to happen.
Amen. Amen. So the title of this show is the Ultra High Net Worth Clients Podcast. So I do like to ask if there's any fun stories around finding particularly large clients that you have.
That's a good question. So, I've got fun stories about being told no.
Hey,
So I called the police on a prospect once. You want to hear that story, Chris?
yeah, I'd love it.
All right. So I'm a financial advisor in training. You're doing whatever you can. So I'm out, trying to find clients wherever, again, however I can. So I go to a prospective client meeting, suburbs of Chicago, to a house that backs up to a park district. I drive into the driveway and behind a tall row of evergreens. So now I'm blocked from the street. And I drive up the hill to the house, and I got a really bad feeling in the pit of my stomach looking at the house and being obscured the way that I was. So so bad, I turned the car around and pointed it out in case I had to make a quick getaway. So I get out of the car and I walk along the front of the house to the front door, and I ring the doorbell. And I sat there thinking, please don't answer. I don't want somebody home. And nobody answered. So I thought, fantastic, I'm out of here. So I walk back in front of the house and come around the corner, and standing between me and my car is a guy. I'm 6'7". Standing between me and my car is a guy who's like 5'2". He's got he's barefoot. He's got Daisy Duke cut off jean shorts and an Oxford shirt, unbuttoned and knotted around his waist. He's got a closely cut haircut, a very closely trimmed mustache, and I can see through the Oxford shirt, he's like cut out of stone. He looking at him, and again, 5'2", I'm 6'7". I'm looking at him and I'm immediately scared to death of him. So I thought, okay, don't show fear. Go introduce yourself. So I went up to introduce myself, and I said, I'm Marc Horner. I was working at Merrill Lynch. I'm Marc Horner from Merrill Lynch. And he says, he shakes my hand. His hand was made for strangling people. It was like shaking hands with a set of vice grips. And he says, I'm Frenchie. Nice to meet you. So my appointment was not with Frenchie. So I said, well, I'm here to see John Smith. And Frenchie says to me, well, he's not here right now. Why don't you come inside and wait with me? And I immediately, so back to movies, I immediately went to that scene in Pulp Fiction in the the Gimp scene in Pulp Fiction, thinking if I go to the house with Frenchie, that's the last anybody's going to see with me. So I said to him, well, I appreciate that, Frenchie, but I'm going to wait in the car. And that upset him. So he said, what are you talking about? You're here to see John. You need to come into the house and wait with me. So this goes back and forth for a little while as I'm starting to move to the right and move Frenchie a little to the left as I'm trying to get an angle to my car, which I finally did. And I said to him, thanks, Frenchie. It's been nice to meet you, but I'm going. And I just went straight to my car and pulled out of there. I get out onto the street to a red light, and a police car goes through the light. So I blow through the red light, pull over the cop, get out of the car, and say to him, I am positive I was just face to face with a serial killer. You put your hand on my chest. My heart was like pounding out of my chest. So he goes back there. I go back to the office. So this is, when you're in the training program in Merrill, it's very collegial. There's a bullpen area. And so lots of storytelling back and forth. So I get back to the bullpen and I tell this story in front of my, other advisors and training. People are rolling around you call the cops on a prospect? I can't believe this. So John Smith, the guy that I was supposed to meet with, he called me later and he said, well, I hear there was a problem. The police showed up. And I said, yeah, you're right. There was a problem. And he said, yeah, I understand you met my friend Frenchie. To which I said, yeah, you're right. There was a problem. Your friend Frenchie scared the frickin' crap out of me. So there's a story from the trenches of business development at Merrill Lynch.
Yeah. I was imagining like a jacked Joe Dirt.
Yeah, right. Classic.
Yeah. Did you end up closing John Smith?
I chose to pass on that one. So right. Sometimes you got to know when it's time to cut bait, and it was time to cut bait.
Probably the right move. Well, wow, you definitely may have avoided a well of some sort there.
Right. Back to, you got to kiss a lot of frogs. You don't want to kiss Frenchie though. Or I don't anyway. I'll speak for myself. I don't want to.
Well, this has been a podcast of many firsts. You're the first to call the cops on a prospect. So I'm excited to see how long you wear that crown. You got to be able to be willing to do what other people won't do, right? Amen. Awesome. So just one final question, and it is an open-ended question. You can take it in any direction that you like. And that question is, what are you working towards? That's another good question. Somebody just recently recommended the book, The Obstacle is the Way, to me. And it's about
It's about stoicism. Are you
Oh
familiar?
yeah, yeah, huge
Okay.
fan. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd never heard of it until probably a month ago or so, and so I read it I was out to go visit some clients in Arizona, and I read it just on the plane trip out and the plane trip back. I flew through it. So, so on the heels of that, I'm right now I'm reading some of the philosopher Seneca's writings. And so this is, from like 2000 years ago. He's talking about how the importance of time and not to waste time and not to he even makes reference in this book, which I find amazing. He makes reference to, what a waste of time it is to work to retirement. He talks about retirement. He talks about retirement. Not 2000 years ago. What a waste
Wow.
of time it is to work towards retirement in your 60s, to then start living your life just as your life is about to end. And so it's a wonderful reminder about the perspective of having balance between hard charging, getting stuff done in the office, but maintaining balance to go enjoy your free time and put your phone down and walk away from that and go, live your life. So I guess I think I do a decent job of that, but I'll probably always be working towards making sure that I'm striking a balance between working hard at the office, but then having time with my wife, my kids, family, and living my life. So striking that balance. I'll probably never run through that finish line. That'll always be a little push and pull challenge.
Mhm. Awesome. That's beautiful. Love the answer. Huge fan of stoicism, and it's Ryan something that wrote
Ryan
it.
Holiday.
Ryan
Yeah.
Holiday. Yeah,
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 Ryan
yeah.
Ryan Holiday. Yeah.
I've
The
read a
obs
couple of his books. Yeah.
the obstacle is the way. For if you're like for other people out there that are like me, that are late to the game on that one, it's a great read, and you will fly through it.
Awesome. Awesome. So where can our audience find out more about you, Mark?
Yeah, so our website is fairhavenwealth.com, and we've got the Bear Brothers on there. We started doing our own podcast. We got our financial literacy video series, a $1 million cup of coffee. All the stuff that we do is on the website. And then there's an open invitation if you ever find yourself in the Wheaton, Illinois neighborhood. That's a western suburb of Chicago, about 30 miles straight west of Chicago. Stop into the office. We were called out as having one of the coolest offices in all of Chicago. So come and see it for yourself anytime.
Well, yeah, the Bear Brothers hang out there, so
Exactly. Exactly.
who wouldn't want to meet them? So, well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for taking the time. We went well over our allotted time, so I appreciate you spending the extra time with us. This was great.
Ton of fun, Chris. Ton of fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Well, thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in today. Keep on growing out there, everybody.